Good evening, everyone. I'm wondering if there's anybody else standing out there waiting to get through the metal detectors. I want to make sure any family members that were planning to be here get in the door. Can anybody see if there's anybody else? Chief? No? Okay, great. Welcome everyone to our City Council special regular meeting here on November 15th. Welcome everyone and family members and old and new council members to this chamber. As I call this meeting to order, would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the city clerk please take our roll call?
Yes, good evening. Member Anderson?
Present.
Member Cuesta?
Present.
Member Russell?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sierra?
Present.
Member Ward?
Present.
Member Wink?
Present.
Mayor Olson?
Present.
All 7 present.
Feeling we each have to do these a little differently. Yeah, we're trying to figure out this new microphone. It's the first time we've been in this chamber since we've gotten new equipment here. So we'll be working on it as we go here. Thank you, City Clerk. There is no study session topic tonight, but we do have consideration of minutes of our previous session. So I would take a motion to approve the minutes for the regular City Council meeting of November 1st.
I move to approve the minutes of the November 1st meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And a second?
A second.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Please vote.
Aye.
Member Cuesta?
Aye.
Member Russell? Mayor Pro Tem Sierra? Member Ward? Member Wink? Mayor Olson?
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you for approving my last minutes for my last meeting on council. Agenda item 6 is appointments, communication, proclamations, and recognitions. And tonight we'd like to introduce to the public our Assistant City Attorney, Victoria McDermott. And so our City Attorney Niles, introduce her for us all.
Hi, yes, this is Vicki here in the front row tonight. Vicki McDermott is an experienced employment, construction, and transactional lawyer. Prior to the work for the city, she specialized in representing and advising cities, counties, community college districts, school districts, public safety departments, and special districts in both California and Texas. As a result, Vicki has extensive experience advising governing boards on a multitude of policies, strategic, governance, litigation, and other issues. Experience that she already has applied to her work here in the city. Vicki's also a dynamic trainer who's motivated by her commitment to the city and her passion for employment law. She draws from her litigation experience during her presentations to educate and encourage employers to take preventative measures to reduce exposure to liability and costly litigation. And we've already seen that here at the city. She's been here for just over a month, I believe, and already has made such a tremendous impact here at the city. And I think everyone that's worked with her already would agree with me. Vicki is a graduate of Rutgers University and the University of Texas School of Law. In her spare time, she's an avid runner and enjoys spending time with her children, Sophia, 4, William, 5 months, her dog, Henry, and her husband, Phil.
Thank you. Welcome. To welcome you tonight. Our second agenda of 6B is City Council recognition and swearing in, the process beginning. And I'd like to ask the City Clerk to announce the status of the election of November the 4th, right? Second, I'm sorry, got the wrong date.
All right, so based on the unofficial election results provided by Arapahoe County, the official results will be certified by the Canvas Board this Friday. The newly elected council members are for District 2, Chelsea Nunnenkamp, District 4, Steve Ward, at-large Cheryl Wink, and at-large Jim Woodward, and Municipal Judge Joe Jefferson.
Thank you. I will take a motion to affirm the determination of the election and qualifications for its membership. I need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the affirmation of the second election.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Could I have a second?
Second.
Yes, thank you. Please vote, again by roll call.
Member Anderson?
Aye.
Member Cuesta?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sierra. Member Ward. Member Wink. Mayor Olson.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you and congratulations to those of you who ran and also for those of you who ran and get to serve here in the city for the next 4 years. And we look forward to seeing how you will contribute to the city. Both Member Cuesta and I, this is our last evening with the city, and it's tradition for us to say a few comments, welcome folks that might be here in our honor that have supported us through this. So Member Cuesta, I'll let you begin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm getting my bearings. Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much to my neighbors and the citizens of Englewood. I'm tremendously grateful for the opportunity to serve. I'm flattered repeatedly throughout the past 4 years that I was selected to represent my neighbors in this position. It's been a very challenging 4 years, I think, not just for the city, but for the state, nationally, even globally. And so it's a world of credit, I think, to the community for continually rising up to our challenges. And I think it's not so much a reflection of the challenges we faced, but the way that we've worked really, really hard and I think collectively to overcome them. And so it's really a credit to the community. It's a credit to the tremendous staff and really to the folks that I've had the pleasure to serve with. So I'm grateful to everybody in the room and everybody in the community. Thank you, Mayor.
It's supposed to make yours go off, but it didn't go off. Do you want to push the button to the far right? There you go. Thank you. And you can hear me okay, right? So I too appreciate the people in the room and all those who are not in the room that have been so much in the background in supporting the work that we do up here, as well as the many others that work for the city, and particularly the citizens who come up and involved all the time throughout our city through boards and commissions, through simply showing up and giving their opinion on things, or even contributing to surveys on the internet. It's all part of connecting our community and caring for one another through giving our voice. And I will never regret that everyone does that and has that capability. And that's what this is about, is trying to preserve that. I wanted to thank this council member, this council in particular. This is my end of my 12th year. Therefore, 4 years to each term, and city council is limited to 3 terms. So I'm term limited out, but I am so thankful that I was able to run this last time. I'd never intended to do that. And yet it's probably been my favorite term and the most gratifying and satisfying, largely because of the folks that are up here right now. And I have a little gift for each of you here. You'll see a little bookmark. So they all have something like this, which is 2-sided, and it's got colorful fabric on both sides. Many of you probably know Debbie Brinkman, the former mayor of Littleton. She actually is a fabric artist, and she makes these kinds of bookmarks and cards, and I've loved using these for all kinds of gifts. But I thought of this tonight as a reminder to me of what my time has been like with you all. A bookmark to me, I love bookmarks, first of all. I just think they're fun to have, and I store them away in books and remind myself that I'm still working on a book. But these are particularly special to me because they have 2 sides in 2 different colors, but they match. And it reminds me a lot of what it's been like to work together. We might have really different sides and points of view and even perspectives and vote differently. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is trying to come together and synthesize and complement and develop something that's a final product that actually serves the city and what we've been asked to do here. So there's a beauty of that. The other thing is that bookmarks mark time and they mark spaces. And so when I think of these tonight, I wanted to give these to you as a reminder that we've marked some time together. And the chapters will not go on for me serving here, but for many of you, they will. And I have great hope and trust in what you're going to continue to do for the city, and ask that all of you here and those listening and those maybe who'd hear about this later will get behind and involved and engaged in a way that this group gets to make decisions that are really honoring to all of the citizens. So continue thinking about the 2-sided view of life and many more sides and how we can synthesize and come together to make good decisions. But thank you for this time with each of you. If there's anybody else who would like to make statements tonight, you're now welcome to do so as well.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been truly an honor to work with both Mayor Olson and Councilmember Questa these last 2 years. There's so many things that could be said. I've paid attention and learned things from both of you. And Mayor Olson, I've just been tremendously grateful for your leadership in the city, especially with regards to homelessness, your efforts with the Tri-City Homelessness Policy Group, working with Change the Trend, people in the county as well. I think you saw over these last couple of years a lot of effort in developing relationships over your 12 years on council kind of come together and allow you to provide some just really tremendous things for our homeless population. And I think that's a legacy that is worth celebrating. I'm really thankful for it. And I think our homeless population here in Englewood and beyond will continue to benefit from that effort for years after you're off council. So thank you for that. And Member Questa, I think the word I would use to describe Member Questa is just the consummate gentleman. I don't think I've ever sneezed while I've been on council without hearing a bless you from Member Questa. It's a small thing, but he does that with everybody about everything. He's always showing respect and kindness towards the rest of council. Obviously, we all disagree on things at different times, but both Mayor Olson and Member Quest have been respectful of their fellow council members in many different ways. And the one thing that I look back to as kind of a highlight from these last 2 years was when we passed the short-term rental ordinance. And one of the reasons for that is because Member Quest said, even though he maybe didn't agree with the majority of council on how that went down, his efforts to really craft that help us craft that ordinance in a way that it was the best it could possibly be, even in spite of maybe his disagreements of the ordinance as a whole. I thought really spoke to his care for the city and his willingness to work even in the midst of disagreement. So thank you both for your service for Questa these last 4 years and Mayor Olson these last 12 years. It's been truly a privilege.
Thank you.
Wish you the richest blessings going forward.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I also want to thank you for serving, over the last 4 years that I've been on council. It has been difficult. There's been a lot of things that have come up in terms of what's come in front of us and in front of council, a lot of just issues overall. I'll start with Member Questa, though. Dave, it's been a pleasure serving with you. I know we're not supposed to have favorites in any kind of way here, but I've always just appreciated just serving with you in so many different ways. There were, obviously you would always come prepared to meetings, always ask the right questions. The respect that Member Anderson talked about in terms of just the respect that you have for the city and for us. You noticed it also when you were dealing with members of the public. You were always asking follow-up questions in terms of what they brought up in terms of public comment. And it really showed through whenever you genuinely cared about what it was that the public was speaking to. So I really always appreciated that about you. One of the things that I would always comment to other, members of the public about you was that I was never surprised by anything that you did on council. And I think that speaks more to your principles. You were always very principled in how you stood on a specific subject. And, to me, that's just something that's very powerful, and you always stuck with your principles and you consistently wanted what was best for the city of Bingwood. So really appreciate that about you. I'm sorry that you won't be here after, you served 4 years. 4 years is enough, but I'm really going to miss you being on this dais. And Member Olson, yeah, I could speak quite a bit about just your 12 years on council, especially the last 4. There's just so many things that we're going to miss about you being on this council. I'll start, first and foremost, just your expertise and your knowledge. It showed through, like in any type of council meetings, like there would always be a subject that would come up on a week by week basis. And you could always refer back to why this was back on the agenda, or give us like a history of why this was on the agenda. And I always appreciated that because it kind of gave us a baseline on why this is something that we're discussing. Secondly, just the number of contacts and just the respect that you garner from citizens, from our partners, from other elected officials across the metro area. That's just something that we're not going to be able to replace. I think a lot of it did show through during the pandemic, where you had so many contacts, you were able to like steer us through many different aspects, speaking to, as I mentioned, like Arapahoe County, whether it was City of Denver. All of that is going to be really missed, and it's just something that it's not going to be able to be replicated after tonight. And Member Anderson kind of alluded to this, but thirdly, it's just going to be your strength and your leadership. So there have been many issues that have come up in front of us, and regardless of whether the criticism being levied at us or to you specifically, you somehow were able to keep your strength and keep your head and basically just focus on the task at hand. So there's going to be issues that come up in front of this council, and I'm hoping that this council can keep their head as well as you did during those moments. So I'm sure that you're probably thinking of specific issues where you're happy that this is probably your last day on council, and you won't have to be going through this again. But no, it's something that I really, really appreciate. So I know that you guys are probably thinking about what comes next. And lastly, I do want to just remind you that board and commission applications aren't really due until the end of the month. So if there is something that you would like to continue doing as part of the city, you still have time. So no, but in all sincerity, I appreciate you both. Thank you for serving, and you're going to be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, there you go. Councilmember Ward.
I've worked with both Member Cuesta and Mayor Olson in some capacity for pretty much the entirety of the time that they've served on council. Member Cuesta is my council representative, and I have some big shoes to fill. He provides an example of how to deal with the constituents, how to work with people, and how to face ideas that oppose ideas that you may have without being offensive. And how to move in a political environment carefully and cautiously. And I really do truly appreciate that. Member Cuesta and I talked any number of times prior to my coming onto this council in March, probably more times than he would have liked, about some obscurities of things that council was doing. And it wasn't until I came onto council in March that I realized that I didn't know everything. There are elements of the job that you can't know about until you start doing it. Mayor Olson, the word that comes to mind for me is perseverance. Not all of the past 12 years have been pleasant for you. And I think we all know that there were some times that were particularly unpleasant. And through it all, you stood ready to serve our community, both providing leadership to this body as mayor and as a council member. So I'm truly appreciative of the example of how to be in times when it is not easy to sit on this dais. And I will take that with me going forward. And if you get the occasional panic phone call or text, I hope you'll return it.
Well, you answered the phone when I called you for those times, so I definitely will return the call.
Thank you both.
Councilmember Russell.
Thank you, Mayor, and maybe the last time that I will be saying that. I do want to thank you for your service to the city, and I know that we haven't always seen eye to eye. I think we've learned how to work together, and so I do appreciate I do appreciate a lot of things that have already been said about you. And the one thing is just the history that you have had. Because you, at this point, have been on council twice as long as I have to this point, and that history is important to keep things running smoothly. And I do appreciate that, and I wish you the best in the next step of your journey. And Councilmember Cuesta, it has been a pleasure working together. I will tell you this, your moving on is going to be a great loss to the citizens in District 4, because the care and concern that you have for your constituents has been apparent. And I just wish you the best with your family. Thank you for your years of service on council as well.
Councilmember Wink.
Last but not least. So I met you, Mayor Olson, even though we were in the DU circles, I think when I was on the Cultural Arts Commission. And Member Cuesta, I met at my campaign kickoff because we were the two newcomers that ran in 2017. And I think it's clearly been said here, but both of you are certainly critical thinkers, clearly dedicated to the betterment of Englewood, engaged, just top-notch citizens. You were voted into these roles by the citizens, and I think you've done them proud, and it's been a pleasure to work alongside both of you. I didn't plan on getting into great detail, but one thing does come to mind. I remember in the flood we had in 2018, I was in LA at the time, but I flew back the day after and quickly called everyone, tried to be of service. And so I went down to one of the blocks affected in District 4. And I think it was a Saturday, and there was Member Cuesta in a basement that had flooded almost to the ceiling, completely covered in mud. And he'd been there for days, and he's just digging out and carrying out all of this furniture in this house. And I mean, we care, we've run, we've signed up to serve this city, but it was just a striking image and something I won't forget. Just what you gave of yourself. I think we all did, but just seeing you there covered in dirt and mud, it was quite something. We've all been challenged in our roles here, Mayor Olson. Many challenges for you, but yeah, you've both been excellent representatives of the city, and I'm thankful for your service and for the opportunity to have worked alongside you. How about that?
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Cuesta, I didn't ask you if you had family here that you wanted to recognize at all, and I was sort of stalling because I have one that just landed. So go ahead if you wanted to recognize. Oh, yes.
Thank you. And I appreciate it, Mayor. My wife and daughters, bedtime was a little bit early this evening, but I'd like to say, and I did mention earlier, to their credit, they've been very selfless, and my wife has been tremendous through this. And I know that everybody pitches in these matters. So I really am grateful for all that she's done, and my daughters as well. They'll get to see me a lot more now. Careful what you wish for, so, but I'm excited for that time. And I should have never handed me the mic back, but I wanted to make it quick, but I will say what is really encouraging to me is that I think this is one of the more functional governing bodies that I've ever seen. And I watch a lot of local bodies in the work that I do. And that to me is one of the best services we can provide citizens, is to really serve them in a practical manner that they can see actions taking place. And so, the city is left in better hands, certainly not without the mayor, but with myself moving on, there's a couple great council members moving in that I'm very excited about. And so I think the city's in great shape. There's always challenges, but the future's bright. And so again, I'm very grateful to this group. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to acknowledge, I have some family members, my son Jens, you can stand if you want, and Anders partner Anna. The three of them have been, and then my daughter in LA, they've been tremendous, and they have heard story after story, some funny, some sad, some really bizarre, and they would listen, and they would let me test out ideas, they would let me rant, they would let me laugh. So I'm so thankful for my family. My husband has actually been with or ailing his parents, and it's on a flight. It was in Minnesota, and of course it's snowing, so he's a bit delayed. He may be here by the time of the celebration, but maybe not. But anyway, he's the one who really has been the long haul helper in all of this. He helped me campaign even when I didn't think I wanted to do it. He decided halfway through my 6 years, the first 6 years, he didn't listen to anything, and then he started to listen to the meetings, which helped him a lot understand what I was experiencing and why I needed to sort of come home and sort of talk it out with someone. It was very, very helpful. So a big thank you to all of you, and for your love and care and consistent kind of support of me, which has allowed for me to be persistent. So thank you, everyone. And there's many more here that all of us could be reminding ourselves of what you've done to help us. And we will probably do that personally during this next hour or half hour, which is our celebration out in the foyer here in the big atrium area. I think there are a couple things we're gonna do out there. So we're gonna adjourn ourselves from here and go out because we have this interesting thing that our charter says that we can't swear in the new people until exactly 8 p.m. So we're gonna go out, have coffee, cookies. There's gonna be a little bit of a ceremony out there again. But then we will welcome back in here and we will swear in the new council members. And Member Quest and I will leave and people will take our seats, which is a good transition to say it's moving on. This chapter is going to the next one. So we will enter out there for now. And I think we have to reuse the metal detectors again coming back in, don't we? Yeah. Okay. All right. So enjoy the time out in the atrium. I think that's what we call it. think we've hit the top of the hour and more. So we're back here. Welcome back into the chambers. I'm going to introduce our judge, Associate Judge Jonathan Lucero is here with us tonight to do the swearing in of our re-elected municipal judge, Joe Jefferson.
Good evening, council. A pleasure to be here tonight. I did want to just briefly provide an introduction. Judge Lucero, this is Judge Jonathan Lucero, who's been associate judge on our bench for a little over a year now. He also is a relief judge in Aurora and Castle Rock more recently. Great attorney, all around wonderful guy. I appreciate him providing us swearing in tonight.
And here's this is for you. If you want, I think you have to push it on. Do you want it? I think it does need to be turned on. Yep, there you go.
Raise your right hand. I, Joe Jefferson, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the Charter and Ordinances of the City of Englewood, and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully perform the duties of the office as the municipal judge during my continuance therein. Thank you, sir.
So the fun of this is our re-elected Judge Joe Jefferson gets to swear in our new candidates, our new actually 4-year terms.
Excellent. My pleasure to be doing these swearing in this evening. One of the great pleasures of my job and the work that I do. I want to remind everyone present tonight that what we're effectively doing is empowering and trusting a new individual with the inherent authority of the people. Congratulations to all of the council members on their elections. I'd like to begin with our returning council member, Cheryl Wink. Councilmember Wink, would you mind stepping forward for the oath of affirmation of office? Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Cheryl Wink,
I, Cheryl Wing,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Charter and Ordinances
and the Charter and the Ordinances
of the City of Englewood,
of the City of Englewood,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of office
faithfully perform the duties of office
as council member
as council member
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein. Thank you.
Okay, next.
There you go.
Okay, next, I'd like to invite our returning Councilmember Ward forward for the oath or affirmation of office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Steve Ward,
I, Steve Ward,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Englewood,
of the City of Englewood,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of office
faithfully perform the duties of office
as council member
as council member
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
Congratulations on board. Okay, next I'd like to invite Mr. Jim Woodward, returning mayor and council member, to the front of the stage for the oath or affirmation of his new office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me, sir. I, Jim Woodward,
I, Jim Woodward,
do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Charter and ordinances
Charter and ordinances
of the City of Englewood,
of the City of Englewood,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of office
faithfully perform the duties of office
as council member
as council member
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
Congratulations. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome our new member, Chelsea Newnenkamp, to the front of the stage for her oath or affirmation of office. Welcome to you, ma'am. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Chelsea Newnenkamp, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Englewood, and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully perform the duties of office as council member during my continuance therein. Congratulations.
And we invite both of the new members to please join the rest of your new council here at the dais. We wish you the best.
Welcome, Member Newnenkamp and Member Woodward. Next up is I will be seeking nominations for the next mayor of the City of Bingwood. Do we have any nominations? Member Ward?
I nominate Mayor Pro Tem Sierra to mayor.
Do we have a second? All right, second. Are there any other nominations? City Clerk Carlisle, may you take a vote?
Member Anderson,
Aye.
Member Nunnenkamp. Aye. Member Russell,
Nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Sierra,
Aye.
Member Ward,
Aye.
Member Wink.
Aye.
Member Woodward.
Aye.
Let the record show 6 ayes and 1 nays, and 1 nay being Councilmember Russell.
Thank you very much, everyone. I guess next on the list would be seeking nominations for Mayor Pro Tem. Do we have any nominations? Member Anderson?
I nominate Member Ward.
Do we have a second? Wait, hold on. I think you had to, wait, hold on, there we go. Member Noonan-Camp.
I second.
All right, Member Noonan-Camp seconds. Are there any comments? Member Anderson? Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Member Russell. Sorry.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask this before, of Mayor Pro Tem Sierra, now Mayor. I think in the interest of transparency, it would be great if the nominee would give a statement of how they intend to serve the community.
I guess this is always on. Thank you, Member Russell. And yeah, I can definitely make a statement. I am very thankful for this council for nominating me for mayor and approving me as mayor. I do plan to continue to represent not only District 1, but also the entire community of Inglewood in a thoughtful manner. I will not be able to live in the, I will not be able to provide as much time as our former Mayor Olson did during this time. I'm really going to be asking for this member of, or other members of council to help me pick up the slack in terms of just all the work that the mayor did in the previous role. But I do plan on fulfilling the duties of mayor of the city of Bingwood over these next 2 years. And I just thank you all for giving me that opportunity. Member Russell? Oh, sorry, it's Member Anderson.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments regarding both the nomination of mayor and Mayor Pro Tem here. We didn't quite have a chance to make comments a moment ago for the mayor, so I wanted to follow up with that. I've been really impressed over these last 2 years as Mayor Pro Tem Sierra, now Mayor Sierra, I'm gonna have to get used to that, has served as Mayor Pro Tem. I think he really listened to all of council, understood even when he maybe disagreed with a particular agenda item coming over, but understood that if 4 members of council wanted to see something come forward, or even if something was a priority to an individual, to make sure that was worked into the agenda. I thought he did a wonderful job with that and was always kind and friendly and easy to work with. I think that's really what I want to see in a mayor, someone, whether I agree with, Mayor Sierra all the time or not, I know that I can trust him and count on him to serve with fairness and lead the meetings well. He has experience doing that. And then I nominated Member Ward for Mayor Pro Tem, which we haven't voted on yet, but I want to just give a little bit of my reasoning for nominating him. Member Ward, since I've gotten to know him over the last few years, has proven to be someone who is really willing to listen to the community and take in different opinions and even change his opinion if there are arguments that make more sense to him. I've seen him do that numerous times. He's more than happy to meet with people who disagree with him wildly on different things and just hear them out, understand where they're coming from. And same with council. Even when I've disagreed with Member Ward, I know that he's gonna hear it out, understand, and make the best decision from where he's coming from. He also knows the charter, ordinances, and policies of the city as well as anybody, and I think he'll really has the potential to really serve in a good capacity at those mayor manager meetings, just bringing balance with Mayor Sierra as well. So I think he would make a great Mayor Pro Tem, and hope we can serve with him going forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Member Russell.
Thank you, and I appreciate your sharing that, and I just, actually, I want to ask a point of order of the city attorney. Is it possible for me to change my vote? on the first one, because I actually do appreciate, Mayor Pro Tem Sierra for how fair he was in treating all of council. So is that a possibility?
Procedurally, we follow Bob's rules of order, and so in order to have a second vote, we would have to have a motion for reconsideration, a second, a vote to approve, and then a second vote. But I think the city clerk could include that in the minutes, that you would have liked to have voted yes after reconsideration without going through that process to make it formal, but we can certainly go through the formal process as well.
I would like to make a motion to go back through the formal process. I mean, I was a little bit disappointed that there was no discussion before it went right to the vote. So.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Ward.
Just for the record, a motion to reconsider must come from the prevailing side of the vote. So I move to reconsider the vote for mayor in order to reopen so that Member Russell can change her vote.
Thank you, Member Ward. Member Anderson, seconds.
Second. I second.
There we go. And any comments before the vote? Member Russell?
No, that's just.
No, perfect. And Member, City Clerk Carlisle, may you take the vote?
Member Anderson,
Aye.
Member Noonenkamp. Member Russell, Member Ward,
Aye.
Member Wink,
Aye.
Member Woodward, Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you very much, Member Russell and.
That was on the motion to reconsider.
Oh, Member, I'm sorry. And now we'll, so let's see, so now the motion now is to, again, vote for mayor. So any comments before passing to City Clerk Carlisle?
Do we need another
Oh,
motion
wait,
and
do we need another
second?
motion?
Yes. Okay.
This is a great first night, isn't it? Okay, so may I get a motion to consider Mayor Pro Tem Sierra as mayor?
I move to nominate Nathaniel Sierra as mayor of the city of Englewood.
Thank you, Member Wig. Do we get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Russell. Just too many buttons. Any additional comments? If not, City Clerk Carlisle, do you take the vote?
Yes. Member Anderson,
Aye.
Member Noonenkamp. Member Russell,
Aye.
Member Ward,
Aye.
Member Wink,
Aye.
Member Woodward,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
There you go. Thank you so much. And I believe we have not voted on Mayor Pro Tem yet. So do we have to make another motion for the Mayor Pro Tem, or is that motion still out there?
I would recommend we have a motion and a second. to
Okay.
bring that forward.
Perfect. Do we have a motion to, Member Anderson?
I move to appoint Member Ward as Mayor Pro Tem.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Member Noonenkamp. Any other comments? Member Russell?
I would like a statement from Councilmember Ward also in relation to how he intends to serve in that position to honor the citizens.
It's been my privilege to serve as an at-large member on this council since March. I was appointed by my peers on this council on a 5-1 vote to serve as an at-large member of this council. And I have worked during my 8 months on council prior to the election to develop and maintain good working relationships with each of my council members. And in my opinion, that is a critical part of the Mayor Pro Tem's job. This council functions most effectively as a body. It does its business for the community most effectively as a body. The people of District 4 have placed their faith in me. We just concluded a vote after a lengthy campaign where I made numerous public statements about what I intend to do in the next 4 years. I don't feel like this is a good time for a campaign speech, but I maintain dedication to civility, to effective relationships, and I believe that my experience as a board and commission member and as chair of two of Englewood's previous boards and commissions prior to my time on council would make me an effective leader of the council.
Thank you, Member Ward. Member Russell.
I would like to make a statement. There are more senior council members on the board. Next to Member Noonenkamp, Member Ward is probably the junior council member. And so I would like to see someone that has been on council longer than Member Ward was appointed by the city council and not elected until this election. This has been his first election. So I will not be supporting Member Ward for that reason.
Thank you, Member Russell. Actually, can I ask a question of the city attorney? If there are additional nominations for Mayor Pro Tem, is this the right time to go to ask for additional nominations?
Our charter just states that the mayor and the mayor pro tem shall be elected, chosen among the city council. So I would recommend we follow Bob's procedure for a motion, a second, discussion, a vote, and then if it fails, then take a new nomination.
Thank you, City Attorney Niles. Any additional comments on the appointment of Member Ward for Mayor Pro Tem? Seeing none, City Clerk Carlisle, can you do roll call for the vote?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Member Anderson?
Aye.
Member Noonenkamp?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Nay.
Member Ward?
Aye.
Member Wink?
Nay.
Member Woodward?
Aye.
Mayor Sierra?
Aye.
Let the record show 5 ayes and 2 nays, the 2 nays being Councilmember Russell and Councilmember Wink.
Thank you so much. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Ward. Moving on to the next item is we choose permanent seating assignments based on seniority. So I believe I stay where I'm seated at the moment. So next up would be Member Russell. Member Russell, is there a preferred place seating that you'd like to have?
I would like to have this seat right here.
And everybody keep me straight in terms of seniority, but I believe Member Wink is next. Member Wink, is there a placement that you would like to have?
I like this seat, thank you.
Perfect. And then Member Anderson?
I like my seat. Thank you.
Member or Mayor Pro Tem Ward?
Happy one, Matt.
And then I'm going to go by based off of alphabetical order. So Member Noonenkamp. And Member Woodward.
I think I'll stay.
You'll stay there. Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. And then I guess next up, just recognition of families and guests of the new elected mayors and re-elected members of City Council. So I'll open it to the floor and let you let the next member speak. So if you have something to state. Perfect. Member Noonenkamp.
Thank you, Mayor Sierra. It's wonderful to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to thank all of the neighbors and community members who have entrusted me with this position. It is not a role or an opportunity or an honor that I take lightly. And I hope to not only work for you diligently and thoughtfully for the next 4 years, but to work with you as well. I view a well-run city like a team, and we've got some really great players. And I'm incredibly grateful to be here to work with the incredible city staff we have and with the citizens and the community leaders that we have as well. I want to just acknowledge the incredible support that I have here tonight from my own community of friends and family and incredible faithful supporters. And I'm very, very grateful for those of you who have the pleasure and the honor of living in Englewood, and those of you who traveled in for tonight. Welcome to our wonderful, wonderful city, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Noonenkamp. Member Woodward.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge for the support and assistance, people that helped me quite a bit during this campaign. Jan Brown, Barbara Golding, Meg Froelich, and Bob Stevenson. Also, I want to thank and mention how much I appreciate the support of my family, my son Jason, my grandson Jonathan, who keeps my energy going. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Any other comments from members of council? Member Ward, or Mayor Pro Tem Ward, excuse me.
I want to thank, first of all, the voters of District 4. Thank you for entrusting me with this position. My fellow members of council who appointed me in March so that I could prove myself over the following 8 months. I'm grateful for the time that I've had to work with everyone already. In the front row in this very council chamber is my wife, Debbie, who is sort of a council widow on Monday nights and often several other nights of the week. And my parents, John and Carol Ward, who don't reside in Englewood, but they don't live far away. And they came here tonight as well. So thank you all for your support over the years and particularly during this campaign.
Any other comments from council? Actually, I'll make a quick comment. Member Ward, Member Wink, I'm looking forward to working with you again over these, at least for my term, next 2 years. It's been a privilege working with you, and I'm looking forward to these, doing it again here in the coming weeks. Member Woodward, we work together or as part of the Parks and Rec Commission, so I'm looking forward to continue to work with you now on this dais. So really appreciate that. And then Member Nooncamp, we worked together in the BAC when I was as I am the liaison for the Budget Advisory Committee. So looking forward to having you on here, and just really appreciate your work in the past. So thank you. And I believe that may be it for what we are conducting here within City Council chambers. We will now be adjourning and moving into the community room. Not all the AV equipment is working in this room, so we're going to have to conduct the actual City Council meeting back in the community room. So does council need a break before we start up in the council or in the community room? I think what the time is here. Should we start about 8:40 or so? Sounds good. We'll adjourn and move into the community room and start at 8:40. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're back live. Next item up is recognition of scheduled public comment. The deadline to sign up to speak for scheduled public comment is Wednesday by 5 p.m. Prior to the meeting through the city's clerk office, this is an opportunity for the public to address city council. There is an expectation that the presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner. City council may ask for questions, clarifications, but there will not be any dialogue. You will be limited to 5 minutes for a presentation, and written materials can be, for presentation to council, may be submitted to the city clerk. So first up tonight is Mr. Ed Kahn, an Englewood resident, will address council regarding easements. Good evening, Mr. Kahn. If you could please state your name and your address or cross streets.
Yes, my name is Ed Kahn. That's spelled K-A-H-N. My address is 4801 South Sherman Street, cross street of Sherman and Layton. I addressed this council 4 weeks ago after an incident that occurred that has been an ongoing problem for 10.5 years. At that time, I asked the council to either basically cancel a permit or to at least to facilitate a meeting as a disinterested third party between me and the offending company, that company being CenturyLink. At that time, between then and now, I finally did have a meeting. At the first meeting, Mr. Lewis, your city manager, announced to the council that it was probably not the city that really took care of something like this, but that would have to be something that would be looked into this. Subsequent to that, I spoke at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I still had not had a meeting with Mr. Lewis, but I have had a meeting between then and now with him. I found out basically very little except for the fact that I was right. In this particular case, it is the city who gives away the permits for buildings such as this, equipment, and so it was in the city purview. I also found out that I think in between the lines that the city was actually getting paid for this permit this whole time. I'm not 100% on that. I'm coming to you today, 4 weeks later, asking that the city council revisit this issue simply to, I guess, to at least facilitate a secondary meeting. In the meeting I had with Mr. Lewis, I would have expected for there to be maybe somebody from the city attorney's office, and certainly the whole point of the meeting was to get to talk face-to-face with me and CenturyLink that for 10 years I can't do over the phone, because if they don't want to talk to me, they don't. Now this issue the reason why it concerns the city council and the reason why the Englewood is doing the permitting is because this is a right-of-way issue. I feel this whole time that my fair use has been taken away from me, and it has been incremental in the amount of use that has been taken away from me, as well as acts that I would have thought the city would have never allowed a secondary permit after hearing what happened 10.5 years ago. So I guess the other thing I'd like to bring up to the city council tonight is that when you have things such as this, where it's not a zoning issue, it's just a permit, it's still building equipment on a public, something that the public has control over. I think there should be some type of public notice, one of those signs put up that says, hey, anybody who has any problem with us doing this, or this company is asking for this right, come and speak your fair piece. Because I certainly believe that if I had come to the city council 9 years ago and told the city council that this company had broken the law, both criminally 3 times and civilly twice, I don't think this city council would allow them to continue to get more permits. I don't believe the company in that I'm talking about, and that is CenturyLink, has acted in the public interest. Therefore, at this time, I'm asking the city to revisit this. And because the last thing I got after speaking with Mr. Lewis, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Kahn, you really only have two choices. You can call a lawyer, and you kind of just told us you don't have funds for that, or you can call the police. And I spoke with somebody from the police department end of last week. It wasn't like the chief of police or anybody. It was just somebody down over there at the building. And I said, look, do you really want me to do what the city manager has told me to do?
30 seconds left.
And come to you 2 or 3 times a week for the foreseeable 6 to 8 to 10 weeks or the next 5 to 10 years? And the person agreed with me. No, that's not what the police department would like. Therefore, I think there needs to be a better solution to this problem, and I don't think this matter is closed. Thank you very much, and I'd also like to say congratulations for all the new faces here. I'm still a new face addressing you, but I just wanted to say congratulations to the new city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kahn. 1 minute, please. Any questions from council? No? Actually, I do have a question for Mr. Kahn. You said that there was 2 items that you wanted council to look at. The second one I understood as having city council look at, in terms of allowing public comment for the building on a public right-of-way, if I understand that correctly. What was the first action that you wanted city council to take?
Originally, I was either hoping by showing a pattern of neglect and improprieties that the city council might be able to immediately revoke the permit. But in lieu of that, I certainly hoped that by coming to the city council that that would facilitate a meeting that they won't have with me without a disinterested third party. And if the city really is getting paid for this, for my inconvenience, then in some respects the city isn't a complete disinterested third party. But I really thought that cooler heads needed to prevail. And I certainly thought that if you give out permits, that these companies at some point, if there are complaints made, that they need to come to the city and at least represent themselves, rather than the meeting I had the other day, which was me and nobody else, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Kahn. Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Kahn, thank you for coming tonight and sharing more of this story with us. Did you verify with our city manager whether or not the city is, as I believe you say, earning money from this permit? Because it sounds like information that is not factual based on what I've heard.
In the meeting that I had with Mr. Lewis and a couple people from City Works, it was a comment in passing. So as I said in my comment earlier, no, I cannot, I am not stipulating the city is. I said they may be getting, and if they are, that this, I think that actually makes a conflict. So no, I was not stating 100% that they are or they are not. I was specifically stating I don't know, but the comment that was mentioned to me sounded like they could possibly be.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Member Wink. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Kahn. And actually, just for the record for City Council, I'll go ahead and do public comment tonight, and then we'll start over with Member Anderson's in 2 weeks. So if that's all right with everyone, thank you. Actually, are there any other speakers for public or for scheduled public comment tonight? Okay. Thank you, Member Carlisle. So we're now moving on to agenda item 8, recognition of unscheduled public comment. If you'd like to sign up to speak for public comment at the upcoming city council meeting, okay, well, actually, we said all that. Do we have any unscheduled public comments tonight?
Yes, we do have one speaker for tonight, and it's Terry Rice.
Good evening, Ms. Rice. If you could just state your name and your address or your cross streets. Actually, Ms. Rice, if you can click that button down at the bottom. Yeah, it's got like a little face with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. You have 3 minutes.
My name's Terry Rice. I live at 4796 South Galapago. It's Galapago and Layton. My husband was here around the first part of October regarding a cell phone tower. And we have it resolved that they're not going to put the cell phone tower up. And I really appreciate if you guys did anything to have that occur. But the base is still there, and we're just concerned if you could do anything about getting the base of the cell phone tower out with winter coming. We're just afraid that it's going to be there forever, that they're not going to take it out. I don't know if you could do anything or not, but I'd appreciate it if you could.
Anything else, Ms. Rice?
Not really.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Rice. Any member Wink? Oh, is that from previous? Any other Mayor Pro Tem Ward?
Just a general question for the attorney or possibly the manager. Is there some sort of condemnation process we could apply to this construction site with the stop work order in order to compel the company to clean up their mess?
I just wanted to report that the Public Works Department has been working with that company, and we have asked them to remove that. So we'll ask for a timeline for that and ask them to accelerate that.
And I would add, I mean, we do have ways to force that, given that it's unpermitted and they're not authorized to utilize a right-of-way in that manner. So we can take action if they don't do it voluntarily, but it's our understanding they will remove it voluntarily.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Rice.
Thank you.
And any other comments tonight, City Clerk Carlisle? Perfect.
That's it for this evening.
I appreciate it. So, Mr. Kahn, thank you very much for coming tonight. I believe that Member Ward last month did ask for us to revisit this issue, and I'm sure that once we schedule the mayor manager's meeting, that we'll look to get on a city council, a future study session agenda item, just revisiting just the entire permitting process and just the right-of-way access that some companies have within the city. So we'll definitely look in terms of getting that scheduled. So we should be able to cover both items that you raised tonight as part of that conversation. So we'll keep you posted on when we do happen to schedule that in the future. And Ms. Rice, thank you for coming tonight. It sounds like we are looking into the issue and looking to get that base removed here in the future. We'll keep you posted as well in terms of the timeline for that, but we do appreciate you and your husband coming and speaking on the issue. So thank you very much tonight. City Attorney Niles.
Yes, Mayor Sierra, I wanted to add on the right-of-way issue that we took these issues seriously, and we listened to public comment on it. So we worked with the Public Works Department, and we completely redrafted our license agreement to use public right-of-way, created a 24-page document that gives us clear authority on when to terminate the agreement, breach of the agreement, use of the right-of-way that's not authorized. So administratively, we've already taken action that hopefully will address these issues and stop them from happening again.
If I could add to that, Mayor, apologize for the interruption. This will not help, per constitutional rights, anyone who has suffered in the past. This only will help people moving forward. So just want to make that clear.
Thank you, City Manager Lewis and City Attorney Niles, for that. And moving on to the next agenda item, agenda item 9, there are no consent agenda items for tonight. Consent item 10, public hearing items, there are none tonight for that either. So moving on to ordinances, resolutions, and motions. See here, so 11A1, approval of ordinances on first reading. So amending the municipal code to permanently provide for authorized public areas for public consumption of alcohol. Tonight, City Attorney Niles will be providing us a little bit more information on this item. So is there any presentation tonight, City Attorney Niles? Sounds
yes.
great.
We do have a presentation this evening, Mayor Sierra. And I am going to apologize to the existing council members because this is a duplicate of the public consumption area PowerPoint that we previously presented, but because we have 2 new council members, I thought it was worthwhile to briefly go through it again so they fully understand the background and the issue before you tonight. During COVID, the City Council authorized an emergency ordinance giving the city manager authority to issue some emergency orders. And one of those emergency orders authorized the consumption of alcohol in certain designated public areas within the city. The purpose of that was to encourage continued patronage of our businesses that were most severely impacted by COVID and by social distancing requirements, specifically hospitality businesses. Then on July 19th, 2021, City Council temporarily extended that stay on enforcement for public consumption in certain designated areas within the city. But the governor had signed an executive order that said we could no longer make an exception to consumption of alcohol in public right-of-way, which was authorized during COVID. So we brought this now before you because public consumption on public right-of-way is now unlawful. And that's under state law. And then this slide gives a little bit more on the background of that state law regarding public consumption and the governor's repeal order. So what that means is what we currently have is a stay on enforcement of our own code. So no one would be charged in municipal court for consumption of alcohol in our designated areas that include public right-of-way, but they could be subject to prosecution in district court because consumption of alcohol on public right-of-way is against state law. And these are the same 2 options I presented previously to City Council. We could repeal the public consumption areas, or we could amend our public consumption areas to remove public right-of-way. These are the current maps of our public consumption areas. This is the South Broadway area that includes the Duck Pond Little Dry Creek Plaza on the south. And then we have another area that only includes public right-of-way, more on North Broadway. So my recommendation at our last meeting was that we repeal public consumption because it does violate state law, at least on public right-of-way. After discussion at our last meeting, I was advised to bring forward in an ordinance that authorized public consumption but removed the public right-of-way so that it does comply with state law. And this slide, very small font, but it does provide the other outdoor consumption areas that are legal under state law. So there's new, and this was just the subject of a response to a council request as well. There are now state laws that authorize to-go and delivery cocktails, expanded outdoor seating areas. There's now communal dining areas that 2 restaurants or bars can go together and designate an area within 1,000 feet of their facility where they can serve alcohol and food. There's also expanded festivals, and there, of course, is an entertainment district option, which is pretty in-depth, requires a lot of work, a board, and that sort of thing. Okay, and then we'll go to the map. So the ordinance, I have a map of the South Broadway area that removes the public right-of-way. The ordinance before you tonight amends our public consumption ordinance. We have a municipal code that prohibits consumption of alcohol within public areas. So the ordinance before you amends that section to provide an exception for the South Broadway area except for public right-of-way. Now, in preparation for tonight, we did issue several responses to council requests regarding the advisability of continuing public consumption in the Little Dry Creek Duck Pond area. We are getting ready to undergo a massive construction project in that area and make significant improvements to it. Currently, there are quite a few police calls for service in that area, So it would not be our recommendation that we continue authorized public consumption in that area at this time. In addition, the remaining areas, as shown on this map, are largely private businesses. The two rectangles that border Broadway, those are largely buildings. However, in the middle, there are the paseos, and those could lend themselves very easily to an authorized public consumption area. There's a large number of hospitality businesses in that block, including restaurants and bars. It's an area that we could designate by signage for public consumption, and people that frequent the restaurants and bars in that area could go to the paseos to consume alcohol if council so desires. So it would be our recommendation that if you do want to allow the public consumption, that at this time you consider only designating the paseos, and then as soon as the construction project is finished at the Duck Pond Little Dry Creek, then consider expanding it to that area, because we anticipate it will be a public gathering area for lots of people, families, that sort of thing. But I did, the reason it took some time to bring this to you is because we were gathering information. So we did meet with a business owner in the area that does sell to-go cocktails. She advised that in the Duck Pond area, she doesn't believe anyone gets to-go cocktails and consumes them from her business in that area. She also didn't believe many people take them to go and drink cocktails publicly at all. It seems the majority of people either drink them on site or take the cocktails to go and drink them at home. So it doesn't appear that this would have a significant impact on businesses in this area. However, we don't know what the future holds. If there happens to be more social distancing requirements or things like that, this could be something that really could help businesses in Englewood. I would welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, City Attorney Niles. Any questions? Member Woodward.
Yes, it appears on the map that the Duck Pond area is included. I guess I would propose that we do not include it now, and in 18 months or a year, whenever that area is completed and has a little bit of history, then we reconsider it. But I think now, if it is approved as it is right now, that's a problem. That's a major problem. And I think the Chief Watson's report certainly pointed that out and verified that. If you ever go down there during the day or early evening, I think you can verify it on your own, that it isn't a good situation. So I will not be supporting that at the Duck Pond.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Any questions for City Attorney Niles from the rest of council? Member Newnenkamp?
Thank you, Mayor Sierra. I do echo Member Woodward's concerns about the Duck Pond. My understanding is that this is already currently a public consumption area. We are simply just erasing the connection point there south of Old Hampton. But there has been an influx of violence in that area over the last several months. And it is something, especially as we undergo construction, that might be worth holding off on until next year when it is complete and has better lighting and potentially some better security. I am curious, though, the north portion of the public consumption area between Floyd and Eastman, we have not talked to any business owners in that area, correct? So we don't have an understanding of if they're utilizing that in any strategic way for their businesses.
No, I did not consult with any business owner in that specific area. I consulted with a business owner in the 3400 block of Broadway. Thank you, City Manager Lewis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Newnenkamp. Any other questions from council? Member Woodward?
I do have one other question. The 3300 block on the east side, which would be across the street from the King Supers and Cafe 180. I'm just mentally trying to think. Don't we have one tavern or one bar over there? An eating place?
Yes, it is my understanding that we do. The map in front of you, which is also the area described within the ordinance, that is the area as it currently exists, but we just took out all the public right-of-way.
Okay, so it's as it exists, and nobody from that block has complained about that. Okay.
No.
Thank you,
Thank
Member.
you.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Member Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. So my question is, what about the crime statistics in the block where the Gothic Theater is? Is that problematic?
Thank you for the question, Member Russell. We don't have the data for that particular block right now, but we can get that for you.
I think that would be a good idea. I'm going to be real honest with you. Open container alcohol has been against the law for a specific reason. And I believe it, if we don't have problems, we could have. We instituted it during COVID to help the businesses out in that area. I do not think it's wise. I think that we're getting back to normal. The businesses in that area they're open. They can do fine. I think we need to go back to normal. Trying to draw all these little lines around it to keep from violating state law. And then, even in reading the paperwork, the problem of putting open container in the car, if you don't think people sitting in the back seat are going to be passing it to the front seat, it is creating more problems for us. I think we need to repeal this action altogether. That is my opinion, and it would be helpful to have some of the crime statistics down there also, because I have and I know some of the business owners down there also have concerns about crime in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Ward.
Do you have a draft of the ordinance that excludes the duck pond area? Because the paragraph that describes the area is a little convoluted. I know it's probably the best we can do, but it's tough to read.
I do not have that separate language because we would need to draft it specifically. The ordinance in front of you describes this area that's on the map. But if you did want to go ahead and pass it today versus tabling it and have us bring it back for a first reading, you could make a motion, but then direct us to change that legal description to exclude the duck pond area.
Any other questions, Member Ward?
And this ordinance, as I read it, does exclude possession of an open container in a vehicle, period. No exception.
Right, it's against the law.
Any other questions, Member Ward?
That's all, thank you.
All right, sorry. Mayor Pro Tem Ward. Member Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any questions, but I'd like to make a motion if we're to that point.
Actually, Member Anderson, if you don't mind, I have a question if I can ask
sure.
my question. So actually kind of going to the last point. So right now, the way that I'm reading this, if we were to make a motion to what's in front of us, that resolution would exclude or prohibit all public consumption areas within the city. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, so the ordinance in front of you authorizes public consumption on the green areas on the map that's
Right.
up on the screen.
Okay.
But everywhere else, it would be prohibited unless specifically authorized.
Okay. So as Member Ward stated, the duck pond is part of this currently as written.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll pass it to Member Anderson. Member Wink. Sorry.
Thank you. So it almost seems that perhaps a little bit more time would be helpful. I know that this ordinance was hugely supportive of our restaurant businesses so far throughout the pandemic. I'd like to extend it, but to do so, using data in the right way, and as best as we can use it and leverage it. And so, based on the questions we've heard tonight and my own thoughts on the matter, I wonder if we could maybe not just speak with one owner in one section within that whole area, but get some feedback, as someone mentioned, from some of the businesses a little bit more north or a bit more scattered, and just have a little bit more feedback there. I do agree that there's more than enough reasoning from just our law enforcement activity at the Duck Pond area, certainly. But if under construction, I think we can certainly, I would concur with Member Woodward, pause on that if we do move forward in that direction. But yeah, I would like us to maybe take a little time and get a bit more lay of the land in terms of who feels what and what's really happening where. We were asked about crime statistics in that block with the Gothic and Moe's. So that's my thought on the matter. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Member Anderson.
Are there any other questions from council before there's a motion by Member Anderson? No. So, Member Anderson, do you want to make a motion on this item?
Yeah, I'd like to, mostly just because I feel like we're veering into discussion without having a motion on the table. So I think it makes sense to have public consumption right now in the paseos. And so I would move to approve CB 53 with the amendment that we only include the paseos at this point.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Do we have a second? I will second that. Any comments from council? Member Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I know we've talked quite a bit about this over the last year and a half now since we originally passed the emergency order. But I do understand the point that the Duck Pond probably isn't ready for this, and I don't see much benefit in having the private buildings. I think most of those green areas on the map are actually buildings, not actually public areas anyway, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to include those. That leaves us with basically the paseos left, and I think that's a good way to test to see whether this ordinance would be useful or not. If we pass this just in the paseos, we can ask more people, build more, build some more data, but it would also give us a good test to see if it's something we want to go in the future. So that's why I proposed it that way, and we'll support this motion.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Member Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I just need some clarity here. Private parking lots, let's say Whiskey Biscuit, that wouldn't be included anywhere here because that isn't a public, it isn't public property or public right-of-way. Is that correct? So they still have the opportunity in acres down on further south on Broadway, 3900 or 4000 block, South Broadway.
Yes, you are correct that this would only affect public property, not public right-of-way, but publicly owned property.
Okay.
So anything that's privately owned, this doesn't affect what they're doing there at all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Member Noonkemp.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the spirit of the motion, but my only concern is with limiting it to just the paseo and removing the northern portion that has been legal for, I believe, about a year for those businesses. I'm thinking of maybe the filling station, I'm not sure, without reaching out to anyone in that area, without doing any kind of outreach. I'm a little bit concerned about just removing it without having that outreach. And so I am concerned about the limiting without that, and would be more open to just excluding the duck pond at this point.
Thank you, Member Noonkemp. Member Ward, or Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
What delineates public property from public right-of-way?
That's a really good question. It depends on how the city has title to it. So generally, public right-of-way is described as public areas upon which the public can transport itself. So sidewalks, pedestrian traffic, streets, vehicle traffic, alleys, vehicle traffic. Now there is you can see a plat. Sometimes property is platted as public right-of-way. So that clearly is right-of-way. Now, sometimes the city will buy property, maybe like the Paseos, not public right-of-way. It's not platted as public right-of-way. It's not an official street. It's not an official sidewalk. So it is open to the public. It's open property, or public property. And that's why it could be allowed and doesn't fall under the state prohibition. But when you really get into it and look, what's the definition of right-of-way? It's not completely clear. The one clear thing is when it's a plat and it says it's right-of-way, then you're for sure it's right-of-way. Which that's a lot of property right there. But sometimes the city may buy property and make a street out of it. I would consider that public right-of-way even though it's not platted like that.
So under this, the parking lot that the city owns on that block would technically be considered an open consumption area as long as you were not inside your vehicle? It's adjacent to the Paseo. It's city-owned property.
It depends. We did not include all of the parking behind. There's parking, for example, on Acoma. You see where the upside-down L shape? There's some parking in there. And that's not included on this.
Yeah, I'm referring specifically to the east side of Broadway, behind like Sam Hill's Barbershop, Breakfast Queen, George's Cafe, Mango Tree.
In general, if vehicles drive on it, I would consider it generally prohibited for consumption. The purpose of the prohibition on public right-of-way is because that's how people can dangerously be injured if they are under the influence of alcohol and they can get hit by a car. So in general, if it's on the green map, we made the decision and with consultation with GIS that it was not considered public right-of-way under state law. That's a very long roundabout answer to it depends. That's the ultimate response.
That clarifies what I need to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Member Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually think Member Noonenkamp made a good point about that north area, making that change as well. So I think I would be open to an amendment or happy to make an amendment to that, either that or table this until we get some more feedback from people along there. Either one I think would work, but it does make sense. I think of the filling station up there with a lot of open area around it, in the way that a number of the places down on the 4300 block don't really have that option. So I think that makes sense to consider that north green area as well.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Member Russell.
So the East Paseo, if we allowed open containers there, people would have to walk in the public right-of-way to get to the East Paseo. Either they're going to have to cross the street or they're going to have to come down from Gallows or and so whether you come down the alley or whether you come down the street, that is the public right-of-way, correct?
Yes, that's correct. But under the to-go cocktails authorization, they have to be sealed, the drinks do. So you could buy them at your restaurant or bar, take your sealed drink along the public right-of-way, walk into the Paseo, unseal it, consume it there.
Okay, thank you.
Member Noonenkamp.
I have just a quick clarification. We are currently in conflict with state law, with our ordinance. What is the risk to the city if we do delay this decision to get more information of staying in an extended period of conflict?
The risk to the city is essentially nothing, but it's the risk to the citizens that I'm concerned about, because they may be under the mistaken assumption that they can walk down our sidewalk and consume alcohol, because we aren't prosecuting it in municipal court, but they are prosecuting it in state court. So as a law-abiding citizen, I like to know what the law is, and it concerns me that we are putting out conflicting messaging to our citizens, so they may think they know what the law is, but they may be doing something that's not legal. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Noonekamp. The current motion on the table is to amend, to exclude, or to allow the paseos, but to exclude the duck pond area. Are we ready to vote on the matter? Member Woodward.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was going to ask City Attorney what her recommendation would be, either to vote tonight and then have to come back for, with a modification and a second reading to make that fit, or just come back with something new and have all that information on the other areas that were mentioned. Thank you.
Because City Council does have so many questions, I would prefer that we table this, allow us to gather the additional information that Council has requested, and then bring an updated version. At that time, we can also include options in the proposed ordinance, option A with this legal description, option B with this legal description, based on the information that we bring to you. That way you could move to approve the ordinance with the language of option A, and it's a cleaner, more informed way to do it, in my opinion.
Thank you, City Manager Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. I always welcome more public engagement, public input, and we stand ready to do that. I do want to just remind council that this came as a formal request from the Downtown Development Authority in a letter to council from the director, Hillary Portel, on behalf of the board. And I think they had conducted some outreach in that. And you may remember when we were repealing the emergency ordinance, there were a number of businesses that were reaching out. So that's one reason why staff didn't do a lot of public engagement, is because you heard a lot of public engagement that were asking for this very action. So just as a reminder, but we're perfectly willing to do more.
Thank you for that reminder, City Manager Lewis. Member Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager Lewis, the specific, I'm trying to recall specifically, what did the DDA request in terms of the most helpful thing for the public consumption areas at this time?
We actually have the director of the Downtown Development Authority here, if council would entertain
I would love to hear from her.
Hillary Portel.
Good evening, Executive Director Portel. If you don't mind introducing yourself to council tonight.
Hi, my name is Hillary Portel, and I direct the Englewood Downtown Development Authority, created earlier this year.
And Executive Director Portel, if you wouldn't mind answering Member Anderson's question in terms of what was the recommendation of the DDA in terms of public consumption areas?
We were very concerned about supporting local restaurants and bars in their economic recovery from last year's coronavirus crisis and all of the closure orders. We also saw that the community enjoyed some of the outdoor dining spaces, the outdoor patio spaces, and the ability to gather and socialize outdoors, because indoors wasn't a safe option at the time. So we were urging the city to continue the practice along South Broadway particularly. We were not focused on the Little Dry Creek Park area, but more the South Broadway paseos, where we had restaurants and bars and social activity.
Thank you, Executive Director Portel. Member Anderson.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Ms. Portel, the motion on the table to include the paseos only would be kind of what you guys are after at this point?
I think it would be welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else, Member Anderson?
No, thanks.
Okay. Members of council, the current motion on the table is to include the paseos, but to remove the duck pond as part of the motion. Do we want to move? Any other comments in terms of the motion, in terms of moving forward?
Just a point of order, Mayor. Are we certain that's the correct motion?
I believe it was the paseo only was the motion.
I believe I stated it better, but I misstated that then. That's the way I understand it. It's only for the paseos, but excludes the duck ponds.
Excludes the ducks ponds and the portion north. It's
Right.
paseo only, so
Well,
anything
there we
other
go.
than the paseo would be excluded.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further comments, we'll take the vote.
Member Anderson?
Point of order.
Oh.
Member Nunnenkamp just flipped her light on before.
Member Nunnenkamp?
I'm sorry, I was a little slow. I just want to make a quick comment before we vote, if that's appropriate. I'm learning the ropes still. I want to just go on the record and say that I'm a tremendous supporter of the DDA and of our businesses, and of what we can do to support them, especially during this challenging time. But I am concerned about limiting it to just the paseo without additional outreach in the north side of the consumption area. And so I can't support this motion currently.
Thank you, Member Nunnenkamp. Any other comments before we pass it to vote? Member Ward, or Mayor Pro Tem Ward?
I would prefer to table this. That would be my preference, is to postpone until our next regular session at least, if not for a month. So I believe I will be voting no on this particular motion as well.
Thank you, Member Ward. Actually, I'll make a comment. So tonight, I would vote yes on the current motion on the table. It does sound like there's a lot of questions still coming from council and a lot of concerns about what is included, what's excluded as part of this proposal. It does sound like we may need to just tie up a little bit more of the open questions that we have in terms of communication with other aspects of Englewood. So I would be in favor of tabling this as well, but if there's no other motion on this, then I would vote yes on the current motion on the table. Member Anderson.
It sounds like maybe we need to table this with what I'm hearing from council, so I'm happy to withdraw the motion if that's the more prudent course of action.
Your choice.
I withdraw my motion.
Do we have to second that, since I'm the one that seconded it?
Yes. Well, I think if you could do a friendly, just withdraw your second. Well, that's technically not, perhaps procedurally, the best way to do it. It is, in fact, the easiest way to do it, and if no one objects, there's not a problem.
I will withdraw the second as well. And so do we have a motion to table 11A1 tonight?
I move to table agenda item 11A1.
Second.
Point
Thank
of
you,
order.
Member.
Are we postponing indefinitely, or are we tabling to date certain?
Date certain.
What's that date?
1 month from now. I mean, you said excuse me. Let's table the agenda item 11A1 to the next regular meeting.
Point of information. So if we table it to 1 month from now, do we have a meeting a month from now?
So, good question, Member Russell. So I believe the intent in saying 1 month from now is, in my view, the second regular meeting from now. So I didn't mean 30 days. So something to that order. And I think, not to be conversational, but the concern is we do have holidays, but my thought is there have been questions for certain items. So let's table it to a date that enables our leadership team to garner and provide those missing pieces or that additional information. 2 weeks doesn't seem sufficient. We have holidays, so perhaps 2 regular meetings is a suggestion.
I think that would be December 13th.
That's what I'm looking at right now as well. So we would table this to date certain of December 13th, correct? And just as just on my point, so right now we're currently not planning on having a meeting on December 20th. So the reason why we're having on December 13th it would be a special meeting for city council. Am I understanding that correctly, City Manager Lewis?
That's correct.
Any other comments from council before we vote? Member Woodward.
I was just going to second the motion.
The motion was seconded by Member.
Is it all?
Was it not, Member Anderson?
Yeah, I seconded it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah. Thank you, Member Woodward. I was kind of wondering whether or not I had that second. So, with no other comments, City Clerk, do you mind taking a roll call?
Sure. Member Anderson.
Aye.
Member Noonenkamp.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
Aye.
Member Wink.
Aye.
Member Woodward. Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you, City Clerk. Moving on to 11A2, which is authorizing the sale of the Metro Fire Training Station. Staff recommends City Council approve a bill for an ordinance authorizing the Metro Fire Training Center sale to South Metro Fire Rescue Protection District for the amount of $188,105.88. Speaking tonight is the Director of Public Works, Maria DeAndre. Good evening, Director. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We've talked about this purchase for a few times past at study sessions, but just to bring the new council members up to speed, we own a portion of this fire training facility. It's actually located just west of 85 Santa Fe Boulevard in Littleton, and it's outlined there in the map just adjacent to the South Platte River. And we were approached by the South Metro Fire Protection District to consider selling our portion of the fire training facility in early 2021. So we have spoken a couple of times with council. We did some research into what we have contributed to that property in the past, and that we've determined there is no longer a use for it by the city staff. So since that time, since we last talked in August, South Metro has purchased West Metro's portion of 25%, and so they now own a majority of the property and are looking to acquire that final 25% from the city of Englewood, which would make them the sole owners of that facility. The way that the purchase offer price was arrived at, there was an appraisal of the property done back in 2015. And so again, they took a fairly straightforward approach that it was 1/4 of that price. And then there were some deductions for the maintenance that we have not contributed since 2014 was the last time that we paid into that. And then there have been some environmental costs as well since that time, which again, they're reducing the purchase offer by about 25%, which leaves us at a total of $188,105.88. Staff has worked with the attorney's office for the West Metro Fire District South Metro Fire District to arrive at the quitclaim deed and purchase agreement that's within your contract, or in contract for sale that is within your packet. So with that, city staff would recommend that you pass a bill for an ordinance authorizing the sale of this facility to the South Metro Fire Rescue. And staff will stand for any questions. Thank you, Director. Any questions from City Council for Director? Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
We talked about this in the past, and there is some potential environmental risk to the city in the future despite no longer owning this property. Is there any way to estimate potential liability in that, or is it just kind of a crapshoot?
Yes, I would say it's more the latter. So we know that materials have been used out there that have the potential to contaminate the site. And so as we've discussed, we are still on the hook for those 1/4 of those prices going forward. At this time, there has been some environmental analysis done by South Metro, but we do not know the extent of what those costs might be, if and when they might be incurred.
So a couple of secondary questions. The first one is that a type of risk that would be covered by the city's insurance policy? Do we know?
Well, we'd have to ask about that. I'm not certain if we have pollution coverage at all.
And then secondly is more related to the finances of this particular transaction. Is council entitled or authorized to dedicate the proceeds of this sale to a specific fund or purpose?
I'd have to defer to our finance director on that question, but I believe that there would be no issues with that.
And I can take a stab at that. Because the property was purchased with the general fund, all of the fire department was funded out of the general fund. The property would have been purchased by the fire department / general fund, so it would be unrestricted to the general fund. It couldn't be transferred to an enterprise fund more than the 10% of the total enterprise fund revenues.
Right, but we could carve out an account, for instance, for environmental remediation risk in the future and just let the money sit there if we wanted to do that. Okay.
I believe that would be the discretion of council, your
Okay.
direction to staff.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't off the reservation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Member Woodward. Yeah, obviously I wasn't here for discussions prior. First one would be the appraisal of, what was it, 2015? I mean, it's currently 2021. Real estate is appreciated dramatically. Now, this is a very special use type of property with possible special environmental problems. So I'm just wondering why we didn't get a current appraisal.
Yes, we did talk about that as a potential option that the city could consider. I think the feeling prior from staff's recommendation was that, yes, there is the chance that it would has gone up in value, but to your point, it is a very specialized property, probably not a lot of comparable property to compare it to, and so there would be a cost incurred for that as well, to create or get a new appraisal, and therefore that given that we haven't paid in our fair share of the maintenance costs, we thought that this was a reasonable estimate of what the city would entail receiving. And so it was a balance between, is there an additional cost for the appraisal, yet, we might still see some additional, or we could dig into further maintenance costs that we have not incurred. So we felt it was a reasonable assumption of what the price might be.
Okay. Also, under the numbers that you have back on, well, pages aren't numbered, it would be a number 3, proposed purchase offer. And then your proposed purchase offer from the PowerPoint, I add those up and it makes me get nutty because there's transposed numbers there. They're not the same numbers.
I'm sorry about that.
I thought my calculator was bad in my phone.
So I believe the ones in the memo, I'm doing the math quickly in my head, should be correct. So the bottom line, though, should be $188,105.88. So I'll go back and double check my math.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's 87, but
okay.
Not that penny matters. Also, on conclusion, the prior page, the purchase offer from West Metro to the city is the same as that was offered to West Metro Fire. Should that be South Metro to the city? The purchase offer from South Metro?
So South Metro acquired West Metro's 25% as well. So South Metro offered West Metro the same price that they're offering to the city of Englewood.
Okay, the purchase offer from West Metro to the city, is West Metro offering us anything?
Why is West Metro in there?
They were one of the four owners most recently. They owned 25% and were recently acquired by, their 25% was recently acquired by South Metro Fire Protection District.
Okay, so that purchase offer should be from South Metro, correct?
Correct.
Not West Metro.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I had there. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Member Russell.
Thank you. So my question is, do we have any protections from being charged for environmental issues that they would have created from the point they acquired it until there's a problem? How do we protect not having to pay for any environmental issues they create after we've sold them the property?
Yes, so we do have what's called a phase 1 site assessment and a phase 2. So we have back to Mayor Pro Tem Ward's question, there is some definition of the extent of the current contamination. So I think if we were to see more in the future, we could safely assume that that has come since the time that we made our sale. But it would have to be done through further investigative analysis to determine that this was something in additional.
And it's something that we would pursue legally if it ends up being a lot of money that we think we're not responsible for, correct?
Correct, and I think to that point, I would hope that the future, that they wouldn't be using those types of materials in the future. I think the materials that were used in the past, they weren't aware that that could pose a environmental hazard, and that there would be better management of the site going forward. But yes, we have at least a baseline right now of what the conditions are out there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Member Noonenkamp. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for your time tonight as a couple of us are catching up to speed on this issue. I just had two quick questions. Since we stopped using this facility, has it generated any revenue from the other users? And then did we explore leasing our portion or only selling?
The facility had the opportunity, or had the, I guess opportunity is a good term, to collect rent or fees, if you will, from people using it. They were never collected though. So that language was set up, but I believe it was more of a handshake deal with other fire facilities or fire districts using the facility as a training center, especially the city and county of Denver, since that was we changed in 2015 to have Denver provide our fire services. We wanted to provide them with the opportunity to train at that facility, and that was done at no cost. So we haven't recognized any revenues from that. As far as leasing, I think the intent was that would probably be the current situation that we're in right now, is that we are a partial ownership with limited ability to garner revenue. So I think the decision on the table was more of a purchase or just retain. Or excuse me, sell or retain.
Mayor, if I could continue that, and to put a finer point on that, not only is it not a source of revenue for us, it is a source of liability. We are really facing they are getting ready to invest heavily in the facility, South Metro is. But really, they're concerned about investing in a facility that they don't own, which has always been kind of a problem with this multi-organization ownership. But in addition to that, if we do maintain our ownership, we will be on the hook for our portion of whatever those improvements are. In addition, we do think that we can kind of cut, if you will, stop the bleeding of the liability, as Member Russell alluded to. By selling, we at least have a stopping point at which we are no longer liable for future contamination of the site. And so that's one reason why we don't think it's revenue generating, and we think it's a source of quite a bit of liability.
Thank you. Any other questions for council? If not, can I get a motion on CB 54?
I move to approve CB 54, authorizing the sale of authorizing the sale of the Metro Fire Training Center.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Can I get a second?
I will second it.
Thank you, Member Woodward. Any comments from council? Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
I'm reminded a little bit of a fund that we did away with previously this year, the Long-Term Asset Reserve Fund. We're selling a multi-generational asset, and we're getting obviously money in that transaction, and arguably not a ton of money, but there is money. There's also potential future liability attached to that asset. I don't have any objection to the sale, but I would like the proceeds not to go into just the general fund and sit there. I want to ensure that we have at least some money put away to take care of an environmental risk that we may see in the future, or at least to take a chunk out of it. Assuming that this is covered by insurance, the sale amount is, as I understand it, pretty close to the city's deductible. So that would come in handy if we had to file an insurance claim with the city's insurer for some sort of environmental risk. What I would like to see on this is a fourth clause added, and I will propose an amendment. The City Council of the City of Englewood, Colorado, hereby directs the city manager and finance director to place the proceeds from the sale into a fund to be held to pay for any environmental liability stemming from the site, something along those lines. So that's my motion. I'll move that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Ward. We have an amendment on the table. Can I get a second on Mayor Pro Tem Ward's comment or motion? I will second that motion just to open up to comment. Any comment from council?
Yes.
Member Anderson. Sorry, Member Woodward.
Yes. Member Ward, can we put a date certain to end that so that it doesn't go on in perpetuity?
I don't know that the risk ends at a date certain, but I would say 5 years would probably be a reasonable amount of time on that.
Any other questions, Member Woodward?
No more questions.
Okay. Or any comment regarding?
Well, yeah, I think 5 years is a little short on an environmental. I would second that and modify your motion to 15 years, that money put away.
I'm comfortable with that if I can just make a friendly amendment to that and add for a 15-year period to the end of that clause.
Member Anderson.
I think this is an interesting idea. The concern I have is, are we, okay, is this specifically set a line only for liability from this particular site, or are we creating a fund to cover general liability? Because I could see something coming up where we have a liability need that this could cover, and this could, I mean, I don't know what the likelihood that this could become an environmental cleanup site that we would have liability for in the future, but it may never happen. I don't know. It could be that they clean it up themselves, or down the road. I hesitate to stick money away for 15 years, especially with really high inflation, and it becomes worth less and less over that 15-year period of time, and it's only set aside for one single use. It doesn't seem like a good thing to do with that money. The 5 years makes a little more sense, but I would be interested in potentially seeing a fund set up for general liability purposes, or perhaps we already have a fund that would do that as well, in which case would it be necessary to duplicate that fund, or do we want to allocate potentially some of this money into a fund that we could use and use the rest for another purpose? So while I like the idea in principle, I don't think I'm prepared to support it tonight without a little more discussion. And I mean, I guess we could have that discussion tonight, but it sounds like a tangled up something we're gonna have to untangle and really think about. So I don't know that I'm prepared to support it tonight.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Member Noonan-Camp.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo Member Anderson's concerns, but also understand, I think, the spirit of the Mayor Pro Tem's motion to not want these funds to simply get thrown into the general fund without being appropriated in some way. I wonder if we could separate them for this evening to be able to vote on this sale and perhaps have Director Lowe come back with some advice on how we could be very specific on where the sale funds would go, what our options are, what an appropriate length of time would be to put in the lockbox, et cetera, and have some more expertise before we make that decision, which is what I would support.
Thank you, Member Noonan-Camp. Member Anderson.
For City Attorney, do we have a fund for liability that would cover this? And if this issue came up, I don't know what the value of that fund would be. Is this something we could add to that fund?
This is probably more of a question for City Manager Lewis or Director of Finance Jackie Lowe, but we do have a risk management fund that we have money in to cover potential liability on behalf of the city and to pay the CIRSA deductible, which is $150,000.
I've been trying to get the balance of that fund for the last 5 minutes and don't have that, but we'll get that for you. It's a pretty substantial fund, that's six figures and more.
I like Member Noonan-Camp's idea of maybe having this discussion down the road and potentially not necessary to create a new fund for the specific liability, but maybe invest some of this money into our risk management fund and utilize the rest in the general fund or something like that.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Any other comments? I too will not be supporting the amendment tonight. I do want to see us discuss the issue possibly in a study session where we just get an understanding of where these funds can go and just understand that risk fund that we've been speaking of. So I won't be supporting the amendment tonight. Any other comments before we vote on the amendment? Seeing none, can we get a vote? Member Anderson?
Nay.
Member Noonan-Camp?
Nay.
Member Russell?
Point of information, is this on the amendment? Nay. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward?
Aye.
Member Wink?
Nay.
Member Woodward? Nay. Mayor Sierra? Nay.
Let the record show 1 aye and 6 nays. The 6 nays being Councilmember Anderson, Noonan-Camp, Russell, Wink, Woodward, and Mayor Sierra.
Thank you, City Clerk. And now to the CB 54 authorizing the sale of Metro Fire Training Center. But we do have a first and a second on this one, correct, City Clerk?
Yes, correct.
Correct,
Yep.
perfect. Any other comments from council? If not, can you do roll call, City Clerk?
Member Anderson,
Aye.
Member Noonan-Camp. Aye. Member Russell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward,
Aye.
Member Wink,
Aye.
Member Woodward, Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you, City Clerk. Now moving on to 11C1, the MOU regarding advancements of funds for the grant-funded improvements to the South Broadway Paseos and crosswalks. Coming to speak tonight is the redevelopment manager, Dan Parumba, and again, Englewood Downtown Development Authority Executive Director, Hillary Portel, to speak on the matter. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I'm really just here to introduce this matter tonight and see if you want to receive a full presentation from Hillary, who you've already met this evening, or just have her be prepared to answer any questions you may have.
I know that this matter has come in front of council quite a bit, but for the new members of council, would it help to just get an understanding of what this is going to cover, or do we need a more full presentation?
Let's hit the highlights.
Just the highlights. Does that sound good to you, Member Woodward?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Just the highlights, so what this MOU would cover.
That's fine with me. I thought the presentation, the communication was all I needed.
I can do highlights. Okay. The Inglewood Downtown Development Authority was created early this year, and one of our goals was to really be in the position to take advantage of economic recovery grant funding that was coming through the State Department of Transportation and the State Department of Local Affairs. And so this summer, CDOT came out with a program called Revitalizing Main Streets, and it offers up to $150,000 to smaller downtown districts for smaller projects that promote multimodal access, public health accessibility, and basically, what I want to say, safety and better access to local businesses. And so we took a look at the criteria for this grant program, convened a group of stakeholders that had worked with the consultant team during the Downtown Matters master planning process, and came up with a project that enhances both paseos as well as the crosswalk in between, and includes things like enhanced lighting, painting the crosswalk, adding new bicycle racks, adding new low-maintenance landscape, and overhead string lights on the west paseo. Just things that sort of refresh what's already there. Also preserve some local identity. There is some public art engraved in the sidewalk on the west side, sort of local historical highlights that we would like to refresh. And then one of the stakeholders wanted to dedicate a tree on the east side to a prominent bicyclist who had much involvement with the bicycle shop on that side over the years. Thank you, Executive Director. Any questions for Executive Director Portell from Council? If not, can I get a motion for 11C1?
I move to approve 11C1.
Thank you, Member Anderson. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Noonenkamp. Any comments from Council? Seeing none, take it to vote. Oh, sorry. We'll start with Member Russell.
Thank you. So I guess one of my questions is, like the crosswalk is fairly new. So what are we taking those flashing lights out, or the only thing we're doing is painting?
We'd like to repaint the crosswalk, also add what's called bollard lighting on either side. You find that treatment on Englewood Parkway down in this area, so that it's more visible to motorists as they're approaching the crosswalk area. We would like to look at adjusting the face of that sign, perhaps lifting it up, making it wider, eventually having a red blinking light instead of a yellow one. Yellow is a suggestion you might want to slow down at some point. Red means stop. There are people walking through the crosswalk. So there is a need for safety improvements in that crosswalk, and those are the elements we think could be implemented with this amount of grant funding.
Okay. I mean, at some point, a red flashing light, I don't know that will necessarily work either. You may just need a stoplight. I have seen almost accidents down there.
Yeah.
Especially one lane is stopped and the other one doesn't realize that they're stopped. And so I know there's some problems down there, but okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Member Russell. Member Woodward.
I only have one simple question, I hope. In the Paseo East, it shows this new painting of the structure there in this blue color. Is that correct?
There's a new color palette in the city's placemaking and wayfinding master plan, and our intent would be to use color from that palette so that it all kind of has a consistent look and feel as new elements are phased in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, can we please vote?
Member Anderson?
Aye.
Member Noonenkamp?
Aye.
Member Russell?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Ward?
Aye.
Member Wink,
Aye.
Member Woodward,
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
Thank you very much, and that brings us to item 12, and so that's mayor's choice. So I guess just a couple of comments tonight from me. So one, I guess with a new mayor, mayor pro tem, I think we may want to come up with a new meeting time for the mayor manager's meeting. I'm unable to make it at 8:30 tomorrow, so I think we may want to huddle up and find out what a good time would be for this week. So that would be one agenda item, or one item that we need to discuss. And then secondly, I just wanted to confirm with everyone, during the November 1st meeting, at the very end, during Mayor's Choice, I believe it was, we were discussing the proposed historical preservation ordinance discussion. It will be coming to us as a study session item if everyone's okay with that. So I believe it may be coming up next Monday night, if I remember correctly. And I just wanted to confirm that that was the expectation from council. And I see nodding heads, and sounds good. But other than that, thank you very much for tonight and for allowing me to serve as your mayor. Things will go smoother in the future. I got paper here, I got a online here, there's buttons over in the other room, but things will go smoother. So I appreciate everyone. Now I'm passing it on for council member's choice. Anybody would like to speak tonight? Member Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. We celebrated Veterans Day, or recognized our armed forces individuals, as we do every year. And something that I know I've seen successfully implemented in several other cities, I sent as a suggestion to the city manager and would like to propose to you all tonight. And it's just one way to further recognize our veterans in the city of Englewood. And I don't know in what parameters it'll make the best sense, but I'd like to propose it as a topic perhaps we discuss at a future study session with additional information being brought forward. So the proposal is reserved veteran parking spaces, just like we commonly see what are marked as handicapped spaces close to the doorways, the entrances. So just a nice way to reserve extra parking for our veterans. So I'll pause there. There are many examples across other cities, as I said, and so we could, pull together some of the examples of what has worked, what hasn't, what enforcement looks like, what some of the challenges might be, where it may be best implemented, etc. So that's it.
Thank you, Member Wink. So did you want us to discuss tonight whether or not to bring it to a study session item in terms of, if there's a majority of council that would like to see this as a future study session item, can you just chime in? Member Woodward, I'll let you chime in.
I would be supportive of that. I don't know if the parking space idea is the answer. But I'm supportive of acknowledging our veterans in some sort of way that makes a difference.
Yeah. Thank you, Member Woodward. Yeah, and I understand it just different ways that we can show appreciation for our vets, if that's as a study session item. Member Russell?
I am in agreement with figuring out ways to support our veterans.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Anderson?
I support.
Member Ward, I guess we got majority now, but.
No objection.
Okay. We have the support, so we'll bring it as a future study session item. Anything else, Member Wink?
No, thank you, Mayor Sierra.
Anyone else want to speak tonight? Member Anderson?
I just wanted to make a quick comment just regarding how we conduct the meetings is something that's kind of been on my radar for a while regarding Bob's Rules of Order, but I do notice, I was just trying to look it up in the policy manual or Bob's Rules of Order, but I believe there's a place where it says that there's no discussion outside of
outside of a motion and a second on the table. And I know that sometimes over the last couple of years, we've veered into just kind of gathering ideas before we get a motion. I would really like to stick to that just because I think it makes the meetings move, even if it's just put a motion out there, even if it's not, it gives you something to discuss. And I think that's what the point of it is just to move the meeting along. So I would just ask that we keep a reminder of that when it's question time for staff, then we ask questions, and then when it's time for motion, we have discussion after the motion's already on the table. So not trying to pick on anybody in particular, but it's just something that I've noticed, and I think it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So I thought I'd bring it up rather than get frustrated whenever it happens. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Member Anderson. Just be mindful of the Bob's rules. Any other comments from council? Mayor Pro Tem Ward.
Just another future agenda item. We talked about this a little bit tonight, but I would like to see the public right-of-way discussion come forward sooner rather than later. And secondly, if we can get an update when the fire department funds come in from the sale of that building, that would be a good time for council to have a discussion if we are going to discuss how we wish to direct that money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other comments? I see a green light over there, but it's just a reflection. Seeing none, city manager's report. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items. First of all, again, congratulations to our newly elected and re-elected council members and our mayor and mayor pro tem. I thought the first meetings are always a little bit awkward, but I thought you all did great. So congrats on your election and your first official meeting as a new body. I also just want to provide a little information that was provided during the course of the discussion after the fire training center sale. Our risk management fund does have 1.5 million, so it's off on a digit there in terms of the amount of money that's in that. But I do think it's a good discussion to have, and we will get a date for when the fire training center sale will be closing, and when that money comes back, and let you know that for an additional discussion. Just one additional item, the council retreat. We are looking at 2 dates that we'd like for you to go ahead and put in your, maybe pencil into your calendar, January 22nd and January 29th, and maybe look at potential conflicts that you may have for one or both of those dates. And we'll be sending out a doodle poll to just confirm which date works best for you for that. And to also let you know, on December 6th, we're bringing you some pretty, I would say, a structural change to the strategic plan. One of the things as we've worked for 2 years on the strategic plan that we have now, almost 2 years, is that we omitted a few things that are very key topics like parks, recreation, library, golf. We really have no goals around any of that. So we are proposing a new section called community well-being. It could be quality of life. We'll let council weigh in on the name, but just to really capture some of the things. We also think that our work in homelessness works better there than it does in safety. And so we are just some structural changes that we think will make it a more robust document that really spans the whole scope of the organization instead of just the priorities of that first council 2 years ago that did great work on that. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that and let you know we do plan to hold that retreat towards the latter part of January. And that's all I have. Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. I believe that may be the last agenda item. So seeing nothing else, thank you very much, everyone, for the good first meeting, and everyone have a good evening. Meeting is adjourned.